Today we're going to paint realistic apples. We'll start by giving the red apple its base coat. Now this base coat is like painting the apple without the shine or the texture. So what you want to do is look past the reflections on the apple and spot those colors underneath. I'm going to use cadmium red, cadmium orange, alizarin crimson and touches of white. So I'll start by blocking in the colors where I see them. Don't blend them together yet, just lay them down where they need to be. Then wash your brush and blend adjacent colors carefully into each other so that you get rid of the lines so that they flow into each other nice and smooth. Then wash your brush and do the same with the next adjacent color and so on. At the end of the blending process, your apple should look round, just not shiny. Now we can start adding the texture. So do this by lightly stroking in darker lines in the light area and lighter lines in the dark area. Be careful though, you don't want to add too many of these lines, otherwise you lose all that lovely original shading underneath. You're just adding texture onto the original shadings. Also notice that I curve these texture lines to follow the contour of the apple. So on the left I'm curving them left, in the center I'm making them straight, and on the right I'm curving them to the right. The apple itself is now complete. It just needs that shine, but we can't add the shine until all this underneath paint is dry. So wait for it to dry, and if you're using acrylics, zap it with a hairdryer. So for the reflections, look carefully at the photo of the apple and you will see that these reflections are more or less transparent. To get that effect on the canvas, use thin layers of paint. So when you pick up the paint, pick up the tiniest amount of paint that you possibly can on the brush and then brush that onto the places where you see it on the apple. And then to make it brighter and brighter, just gradually add more and more layers of this light color. So what I'm using for the reflection is titanium white with a touch of yellow in it. When adding these reflections, remember it's easy to add more paint, but it's not so easy to remove it. So tiny amounts of paint and a feather-light touch. Let's do one more apple because I want to show you how the one apple reflects inside the other. To paint this apple, I'm going to use sap green as the base color, and then I'll shadow it by adding red to the mix, and I'll highlight it by adding yellow and white to the mix. So as before, I block in the main colors in the areas where I see them without mixing them together. Then I'll wash the brush, blend adjacent colors into each other, wash the brush again, blend the next set of adjacent colors, and so on, just like before. Notice here at the top of the apple, that little dent where the stem comes out is darker than the area around it. That gives you that looking in effect there by the stem. This apple doesn't really have any texture, so I'm going to move on to doing the reflections. So I'll gently paint them in with the white and yellow mix again. Tiny amounts of paint at a time. Alright, so here at the top, notice that the red from the apple above it is reflecting on the skin of the apple. So to get this effect, I'm going to take some of the red apple and mix it into the green of the green apple. And I'm going to use that color as my reflecting color. So as before, I'm still going to use tiny amounts of paint. I'm still going to use a feather-light touch. It's just the color that's changed. For the stem, I use raw umber to paint the shape using a fine liner. And then I'll dab in random marks for the highlights using yellow ochre. Lastly, we need to paint the apple's shadow on the table. Use Payne's Grand White and some of the apple color to shade this in. The shadow is darker at the base of the apple and fades lighter as it extends away from the apple. The third apple is painted in exactly the same manner, so I'm not going to show you how to do that. I'm going to leave you to do that on your own. But once complete, this is what your painting is going to look like. So now notice that the green apples are reflecting in the red apple as well. I hope you enjoyed painting realistic apples with me. If you did, please like the video and comment below. And of course, subscribe to our channel for more tutorials like this.